What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Project 250R. If you watched in the last video, we started making the roller for this thing and it's coming together really nicely. So we're just going to continue on and pick up right where we left off. So we got some really nice parts laid out here in front of us. There are some parts here that are extra special, and I want to take some time to actually talk about them before we put them on. But what I want to do is get the brakes all finished up. If you guys remember, we pulled apart the brakes. I got the rebuild kits, so we're going to rebuild the brakes. That's a super easy job. Get the brakes in place. Probably do our brake lines, just kind of mock everything up and get everything in place. We can fill our hubs with bearings, put the disc brakes on them. We got brand new disc brakes, and that way this thing will actually be able to be a roller. So of course we'll put our rear sprocket on. We got our OMF beadlock wheels, the DWT rock out front wheels. It's going to be really sweet. We got the ASV lever. We got the trick brake lever. We have that MPM custom logo on top. The Reservoir cover, really nice piece. Now we may or may not get to the precision racing products. Those are for stability and reducing fatigue. They're really special parts, and when you look at them, they don't look like anything crazy, but they're very in-depth, and there's a lot of engineering that goes into them. So I want to set some time aside to specifically talk about those. So they are on the table, and I do plan to put them on, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to fit it into this video. Now that being said, let's get started and get some of these parts off the table on the bike. So let's get started by doing the brakes. All right, guys, check it out here. So we have all of our brake components broken down. It actually looks pretty sweet like this. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of assemble these calipers. These pieces I'm reusing. I put them in the tumbler and they cleaned up like brand new. And of course we have this block off. We're not going to be using like a parking brake. And this is the one that actually came on the quad. I just brushed it with the Scotch-Brite pad. So let me crack this stuff out of the packages and we will start assembling one of these calipers. All right, guys, so we got our stuff unboxed for the most part. You can see we got our brake pads up top, and then we have a rebuild kits here. Now, these come with all of the rubber bushings and the boots and whatnot, and also the O-rings and seals for the pistons and the brake calipers. And it looks like some new crush washers. I'm not really sure what this pin is for. I guess we'll find out in a second. So I'm going to sweep away most of this stuff, and we'll kind of just focus on one caliper first. All right, guys, check it out. So what I decided to do was do one of the calipers myself. So this one is all done. You can see it looks pretty trick. Those red brake pads really kind of set this thing off. This is actually the first time I ever rebuilt a caliper. So that's why I wanted to do it beforehand and kind of get familiar with it. It's pretty easy to do. So I will walk you through doing the other side, and then we'll do the rear one as well. I already disassembled the rear one, but I'm going to disassemble this one with you guys so you can see how to do it. The rear one's pretty much the same. So first I'll take this out. This was just a plug that I had put in here, this bolt. We have pretty much everything here we need to rebuild this brake caliper. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these things, and this is kind of crazy when you do this. They tell you in the manual to take a little bit of compressed air, blow it in the back here. Now I have all these ports open for the bleeders, so I'm going to close those off first, because otherwise when we shoot air in there, it's just going to come out the bleeding holes. The whole idea is to push these pistons out. So let me plug those up real quick. We have this plug right here. Put just a drop of blue Loctite on there. Snug that. Now we'll do the same thing with the bleeder. Just gonna get it started here. Put a little drop of blue Loctite. This is blue Loctite, guys. It's not like red Loctite or anything. I know I'm gonna have to crack these open and bleed the brakes and everything. Blue Loctite does not prevent the bolt from moving. It just keeps it snug. Then we got this little dust cover. So that pretty simply just wraps around. All right, now this is the fun part, getting these pistons out. So in the service manual, they tell you to take a little bit of compressed air and kind of blow it like this. They tell you not to seal this off by pressing it in like that, basically because these pistons can turn into projectiles. I thought it was kind of funny in the manual, but it's pretty crazy when they come out, at least the other ones anyway. They came out with some serious force. So you're supposed to face it downward on a rag, and obviously make sure you're not holding it like this or something, like so they hit your fingers. I don't really know that it could really mess you up, but probably wouldn't want to find out. So these are pretty stuck in here. So I mean, doing that's not going to work. I'm going to have to actually seal this off, and they could just kind of like pop out, but it's not that big of a deal. Wow, these are really stuck in there. Jeez. All right, these are stuck in here pretty good. I'm kind of glad this is happening because it's the kind of issue that you might come across. So what I did, the same thing happened on the last one. So I just took a little C-clamp and actually brought the piston in. The whole idea is to break it free and get it moving. So you can see it is moving. So we're just going to bring it in like that. We'll do the same with this one. Now let's see if they pop out. Whew. There's one. Now this other piston doesn't want to come out because this piston is now gone, so air is just flying right through here. We can't build any pressure up to push this one out. So the way I got that one out in the last one is you take the piston that already came out and put it in place. We're just going to push it in a little bit. These things are stubborn, man. You're not going to be able to just drop it in. If you can, that means your seals are really bad. Then I put this clamp on to hold it in place. Now that other one should pop out. Whew, jeez. Shit is loud, man. It scared me the first time I did it. And now this one, you should be able to get out with your hands. So both pistons are removed. You basically just want to inspect these things, make sure they're not scored up or anything. If you want, you can measure them and check to see if they're in spec. Mine are so snug, I'm not really too worried about it. But I just wipe off all the old brake material and kind of set these aside. Now we've got these O-rings in here. These are what we're going to be replacing. So I'm just going to use this pick. We'll pull them right out. And I did notice in these little channels in here, there's a little bit of dirt. So this one's not as bad as the other one. But I just took the pick and kind of went in the corners. So if there's any like grit or grime in there, it's not going to inhibit the seal from falling into the seat. Now putting these new seals in is as easy as just pushing them in. You can see I already put these ones in here. So it's important though that you lubricate these with a little bit of whatever kind of brake fluid you're using. And this way it will ensure that everything's lubed up and you'll be able to push in your brake pistons because, believe me, they're really tight. Alright, so all those seals are in there. I'm going to take a little more brake fluid and just line these cylinders before we put our pistons in. I'm going to do the same thing with the pistons. Just make sure they have a nice thin coating of brake fluid on them. These are supposed to just push in, but I don't really think that's realistic. I mean, maybe mine are just extra tight, I don't know. But I had to put mine in with the C-clamp, so it's a little bit cumbersome. I just kind of get mine started, and then I put the C-clamp on there, and you just want to make sure that it's pressing it down evenly, and it's not, you know, cockeyed, because then you'll damage your piston and cylinder. You don't have to put pressure on these, but I'm bringing them all the way in so we have enough room to fit our new brake pads. That was annoying, but not too bad, right? So now we have our rubber grommets to put in. These are easy, man. Just going to take a little bit of silicone lubricant. I'm using dielectric. And I just want to coat them. That's what they tell you to do in the manual. It's going to keep the rubber moist and from dry rotting, and it's also going to help squeeze them into place because it kind of has to like pop through a tight area. So you have this one seal that goes on the outside. You can see there's a little groove in there. That's for the edge of this thing, and it just pops in place. It seems like it would be difficult, but it's really not. Boom. Then we have this one here. I'm wondering if maybe this pin is to push this through from this side. I didn't do that with the other one, but it seemed to work pretty well. Right now we got our caliper stay. I'm gonna put a brake clip in here. We're gonna put a little bit of grease on these. All of the surfaces where there's friction, and also on these pins. Before I put that in place, I'm going to take a little bit of grease and just put it on the inside of these boots. Now these two pieces literally just press together. You just want to make sure that your boots are lined up correctly and they're not, the seals, the lips aren't folding under or anything. Usually once you push it all the way in, it everything hooks up. You can see that one's sealed there, and so is this one. Alright, we're almost done with this caliper. We have one more brake clip that goes up here. It does clip in place, it stays like that. Put a little bit of grease on there. And then we slide our pads in place. You can see the hole lines up in the back where our brake pin goes. And we will lube up our brake pin because those pads need to slide freely on this. And then you just hold your pads in with your finger and you feed your pin through. Put just a dot of blue Loctite on here and snug this pin down. Alright, now here's our rear caliper. I've already replaced the seals in here. Same process as the front. But one thing that is different, on the inside of the left one you can see there's a hole, and that's where the parking brake actually attaches. So you can see this one piston actually has a shaft that comes out and that goes through the back, and that when the parking brake is actuated, that's what pushes this piston in and holds the rear brake so that you don't go rolling down a hill or something. So here is our O-ring. We'll do the same as those other seals, put a little bit of brake fluid on it and put it in place there. It might be a little cumbersome. I might have to use a pick or something to get it in there, but you just want to make sure that it's in the groove. All right, well that was a tough one, but I did get that one in there. So let's get these pistons in, and it's definitely going to be a little snug, that's for sure. All right, guys, I did get those pistons in. It was a little bit cumbersome, but we got them in there. So we're going to do the same thing like we do in the front. We're going to take these rubber bushings, put a little bit of silicone on them, and put them in place. And there's also a pin that floats and goes in here, and then rubber goes on both sides. All right, now this is going to be kind of tricky. I have the bushing, or the rubber, somewhat pulled midway on the bottom, and I'm going to try to get it on here while it's like that. Now I should be able to push this through. There we go. And then this one should just pop right in. And then we have a brake clip that goes in here. Goes this way, and that clips in place. Put a small bit of grease on there, some grease on our brake pins, and we'll take our pads, and they will have to be held in place just a little bit against that spring tension. Put the pins in, and these pins that come with the kit already have Loctite on them, so they just need to be snugged down. Alright, so we finally got our brake calipers done. They look pretty good. Front ones definitely look good. The back one actually still looks decent. Now this is the one that I sprayed with caliper paint. So a lot of the paint was starting to rub off like right here because we were playing around with brake fluid, and I kind of struggled getting these pistons in. These were really seized in there. Getting them out was tough, and putting the new ones in. But now everything is nice and smooth and moving freely. And honestly, I think this still looks really good. Once we put the block-off plate on the back and everything, it's going to look really good. So I'm not going to put this on just yet because I won't be able to torque it down just holding it with my hands and all. So let's go ahead and build our hubs so that we can put these front brakes on. All right, so we got a freaking cool hubs here. These things really do kind of look like OEM Honda gold. It's just a little bit darker and more tan than gold. But I like the color, I like the way it came out. Bonehead did a really good job masking everything off, so I didn't really have to do anything. Now I'm actually going to be throwing these in the oven at about 200 degrees so that the metal will expand, and I have the bearings in the freezer, so they're contracted. We should be able to just pretty much drop them in place. If that doesn't work, I have a press, or we can tap them in as well, but we'll just try to do it the easy way, throw them in the oven. And we also have some brand new disc brakes. Wow. Look at that. These things are freaking sweet. These were actually really hard to find because the 86 and 87 front brakes have 4 holes, and in 88 and 89 there are 3 holes. And there's like a million places that make, well, I shouldn't say a million, but it's a lot easier to find the disc brakes for the 88 and 89. These ones were tough, man. But yeah, so these look like these look like good brakes. I mean, they feel like they're good quality. It's a piece of metal. It's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, so the look trick on there, I like the little cooling circles. Whew. Got our frozen bearings right here. Let's see what happens. Oh. Are you kidding me? Damn. Well, guys, this time around, I think I didn't leave the hubs in the oven quite long enough to get hot enough, but that's all right. We'll just use this sweet-ass hydraulic press and just push them into place like nothing at all. All right, well, that wasn't too bad. Let's get our seals in here. I already put a little bit of dielectric grease on these. And I noticed these seals don't sit quite flush. The bearing is all the way up to the stopper, and when I pulled these apart, I think they were the same way. But I just wanted to make note of that. So I will throw my seals in the front. All right, so these discs are the same. You can see there's a little recession. That has to be facing outward. See, this side doesn't have it. So these are going to be reversed, you know, with these, with the cutouts. One of them's going to be going one way, one's going to be the other way. I don't think it's going to make a difference. And I've already went ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on all of my OEM hardware. These are one of the very few bolts that don't come with the DBC Racing kit. These actually just fit on. If you guys remember, it was a pain in the ass getting the OEM discs off. They were super snug. Now for these, I'm just going to hit them with the impact. And you know I'm going to grease the inner seal. All right, let's get these front hubs on. We'll put a little bit of anti-seize on our shaft. That was more than a little bit. All right, we're gonna slide this in place, and this inner seal will be going right over this portion of the hub. It's almost like a spacer. We'll put this little spacer in the front and put our castle nut on. All right, let's put these calipers on, and when you do these, just so you don't mix them up, the bleeder goes up towards the top. And then we'll just fit our pads on. And now we'll use our stainless steel bolts. Now there's a critical step that I actually forgot to mention in the last video, and that's that when you're using any stainless steel fasteners, you should really use anti-seize or Loctite. If you're using like a nylock, you should use the anti-seize. And like in a case right now with these brake components, I've got blue Loctite on these bolts because that will protect the threads as well. Stainless steel is a softer metal, and the threads can gall, which the threads kind of get like elongated and chewed up, and that can actually cause the bolt to seize, and then it snaps. So you definitely want to avoid that. The whole thing is to create some sort of lubricant so that the threads don't seize and they go on easier. If you just use a little bit of lubricant, you never have any problems with them. But so yeah, anti-seize or Loctite. And I am torquing these bolts to 25 foot-pounds. All right, let's do our rear caliper. So I'm gonna put my rear rotor on first. I actually meant to put this on before and I forgot, but we should be able to do it as it sits. Well, I lied. All right, looks like we'll have to do this on the bench. Really not a problem at all. It's actually kind of easier anyway. So we'll throw that disc on there. Got our OEM bolts. We'll throw a little bit of blue Loctite on all of them. And I'm going to buzz these down with the impact. Put our caliper stay in place. Got blue Loctite on these, of course. Now these get torqued down to about 18 to 25 foot-pounds. And my torque wrench is a little too big to fit in here. If I put it in here, it's going to rub against the swing arm and probably mar it up. And then up here, there's just no way it's going to fit in there. So in this one instance, I'm going to just snug it up. Same thing here, I'm going to 25 foot-pounds. All right, now I'm gonna put the parking brake block off on. I'm gonna put just a little bit of Yamabond on here, which is just like an RTV, just because I don't want anything getting in there, because then it could possibly seize up our brake piston. So I just want to keep it as clean as possible. This one's gonna get the hand tightening too. All right, while we're back here, we might as well throw our sprocket on. This is a Vortex steel sprocket. And these bolts are included in the DBC Racing stainless steel bolt kit. You can see there's a washer, a lock washer, and I'm also using blue Loctite. I'm gonna use my impact driver to zip these down. I will torque these when I'm done, but right now it's a little bit too easy for this axle to move and it's going to be difficult to torque them. Now we might as well just move along here and do our rear master cylinder. So this is already rebuilt, if you guys saw in another video. And I did put a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts. And I'll torque these to 12 foot-pounds. Then we have our reservoir hose goes on here. This is like one of the few untouched pieces on this quad. This is the original hose, and I just cleaned it up. And we've got this Trick NPM rear reservoir. It says the M309R right on the top, man. This thing is freaking sweet. But it normally mounts to the side of the airbox, and we're not gonna be running an airbox for this setup. So most likely what I'm gonna end up doing is making some kind of custom bracket so that it can bolt up right here, probably just come up and strap right around that frame rail. All right guys, check it out. So I have a fix for hanging our reservoir here. I took a little piece of rubber. It's a little sticky, but it doesn't really want to stick. That's gonna go right there. And then I made this bracket out of an aluminum block. It's gonna go right here. This I just kind of used a Dremel to make, and it has a little depression right here for the pin on the back of our reservoir. That will slide right in place. And then I threaded the bottom hole, so that will mount up like so. And then this will band clamp right to the frame. I really didn't want to drill any holes or anything in the frame, especially the subframe. It's not one of the stronger areas on the 250R from what I understand. So in an effort to not compromise that and keep it in the original location, because that is where it would be located stock, it would just be hooked up to the airbox. I think this is going to be perfect. Well, it's definitely not the prettiest bracket, but it's nice and strong. It shakes the whole quad right from here. So that ain't gonna go anyplace. Most of this is gonna be covered by plastics, and you'll see the reservoir is gonna be right here anyway. So it should look pretty good. All right, that should be good. I just have that snugged up. There's a little bit of blue Loctite on the other side. And I also went ahead and ran our rear brake line. This is a stainless steel streamlined brake line, and it is made for the -1 swing arm. I also put a little P-clamp right here with our stainless steel fastener. That is blue Loctited, so this should be nice and not inhibiting anything. It's nice and easy, free moving. And I'm going to tighten down our banjo bolts to 25 foot-pounds. All right, guys, check it out. It's coming together pretty nicely. I think the swing arm came together and looks really clean. I really like the color combo back here. I think it matches the entire build color scheme. The rear caliper, I think, looks fine. I know we lost a little bit of paint playing around with the brake fluid, but it still looks really good. Not really sure how I feel about the bracket to hook up this rear reservoir. It's a shame that that piece actually gets hidden by the plastics for the most part. You can see it though, and you'll still be able to appreciate it. So that is most likely the way that it will stay. It's nice and solid, like I said. And, you know, it's something I could maybe change down the road, but I still think it looks good. Now, I hooked up my front brake lines too. However, it seems like they sent me the incorrect size. So, not a big deal. Called ATV Galaxy where I ordered them, and they are immediately shipping out a new set. They didn't have black in stock, but they had red in stock. It's a 10-day wait for black. So I ordered red. I think it might actually look nice because we have the red roll design, the red joint up here, we have the red brake pads. It might actually look and pop really nice with red lines in the front. So we'll see what it looks like. That's why I had to stop with the brakes. Now I kind of feel like I have to put the wheels on. Oh my God, it looks freaking sick! Oh man, those wheels really make it come together. I want to put the plastics on so bad. It just looks awesome. The whole thing is, the quad's like really small. Like when you take a step back and look at it, I guess you can't really tell unless you're in person, but it's a small quad. This thing is definitely going to handle amazing. It's a lot smaller than the Banshee. And even with the +3 A-arms, it still has like a pretty, I don't want to say narrow stance, but I just cannot wait to run this thing. All right, guys, so I'm going to wrap this one up here. I have a ton of editing to do for you guys. A lot of you guys have been asking me questions, asking how long it takes me to do this stuff. For me, it usually takes about 3 times as long as a normal person because I have to move the camera around, get the right camera angles, and sometimes I have to do things once or twice to make sure that it comes out the way that you guys can understand it and that it looks good on camera. So if you want something done right, you got to take your time. And you know, I'm sure if I was building these things non-stop, it'd be a lot quicker. But yeah, so it's taken a while. And guys, I know that the stock 250R front hubs and spindles are not the best handling setup, but I guarantee this is still going to handle amazingly. I know a lot of guys switch over to 400EX, they do 450R, and it's supposed to make the cornering a little bit better. Now, we're like way over budget as it is, so I think the way that we set this thing up, I think it's going to handle amazing. I've never ridden a quad that's as built as this. I've never had my own suspension and stuff. I can't imagine that I'm going to be disappointed with the results. So I appreciate you watching. As always, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this content. That helps me out a lot. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that little bell notification so that you know when I'm uploading a new video. Try to put up 1 to 2 videos a week. These 250R videos have been taking me a little bit longer, so it's been kind of like 1 video a week. But I am going to try to get on a regular posting routine because I know a lot of you guys ask about that too. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace out.